talking to NBL now, and I'll tell you what, fellas, usually we say with something like this, I don't know where to start. But I knew we know where to start. I know exactly where to start. It's Chris Goulding and his second half explosion. The Perth Wildcats did not play a bad game of basketball, but unfortunately they met an unstoppable force in Chris Goulding.
They made some poor choices defensively, some really bad breakdowns, which again, you can't afford to do when you're coming up against a superstar like Chris Goulding. And they're going to go back and review some of those clips. The the lack of understanding, are we switching that? Are we just staying home like Melbourne does with Shea Ili on Bryce, where we're not switching unless it's absolutely last 5 seconds in the shot clock? Those things they have to fix, but make no mistake, he made some tough ones as well. He is a special, special talent, and we mentioned it a lot throughout the broadcast that it doesn't matter if he has well held until three-quarter time. If you're not locked in, he will put the game to bed. He did that. 5 made threes in the fourth quarter. It was a special performance. It's just one game, but they'll take a lot of confidence out of this.
Yeah, you spoke about forgetting about this game and going on to the next one. It's hard to forget about this game when you let a guy get 41 points, especially when I'm sure they've talked about it in practice. We got to send Chris this away. We got to make sure he doesn't get any threes. You got to run a guy like that off the three-point line. Give up the layups, but you can't let him get going. Once he gets his eye in there, he starts taking those hard shots, and then it's impossible to stop.
We'll start on the side of the Perth Wildcats because it was their big three that did the damage. They didn't exactly have, look, they had 20 points across Doolittle, Pinder, and Cotton. They didn't quite have the X factor. I think Ben Henschel brought it a little bit, but is that sustainable? Look, their big three scored enough points. You know, are you worried if you're the Wildcats, or are you still thinking, you know, we put in a great effort?
I think they're going to take a lot of positives out of this because, again, besides you take Chris Goulding's crazy fourth quarter out of it, and they were right there. There were numerous times it looked like Melbourne were going to run out, put it by 20, and Perth continued to find a way to bounce back. Bryce Cotton hit some big threes. I thought Doolittle was outstanding. He looked really aggressive on the front foot offensively. He's going to have to do that. Dylan Windler's that next piece for me.
Yeah.
So Keanu Pinder was great as well. He looked ultra aggressive. They really hunted Rob Lowe, which I think on a Melbourne side, they're going to have to figure out ways to protect him in the Rob Lowe minutes. But outside of that, it's got to be Dylan Windler. You've got to step up a bit more offensively. And defensively, he was the one who was going to Chris Goulding a little bit. He had some mistakes, so expect a bounce-back game from Windler.
You're right. Windler or Henschel, somebody else, they need that fourth score. Again, we speak about them playing offense. John really has to go back and find a way to find someone to be brave enough to say, I got Chris Goulding. I'm not worried about any switches. I'm not worried about any pick and rolls. He just has to find a Shea Ili on that team to shut Chris Goulding down.
The other thing for me that really stood out, and we spoke about it throughout the broadcast, was the timeout was called with 1:20 to go in the fourth quarter. There had already been multiple breakdowns, not just one or two, 3 where you have miscommunication and Goulding's hit threes. I know that they only had 1 timeout left, but that's the time. You know that Goulding is similar to your Bryce Cotton, that if he gets on a run, he's going to be tough to stop. The game's over. I thought that timeout came too late. Not so much just to stop momentum and the crowd going nuts here at JCA, but to also go in there and say, what is going on? Are you guys trying to switch, or you want to stay home? Figure it out. Let's go and close out this game.
Was the way that Melbourne guarded Bryce Cotton, did they head into the locker room, Jacob Chance, who scouted this team, are they happy with that? Are they stoked? Great job, we get the win? Or is 22 points still a little too much for what they're looking to allow?
No, it's not. 22 points is solid. I mean, Bryce Cotton, you expect Bryce Cotton to get 30, 35 points. When you hold a guy like that to 22 points, you've done a fantastic job. And Shea Ili was tough. I mean, when Shea Ili went out, they put Dellavedova on him, but Shea is the guy who guards Bryce Cotton. He gets over screens, he goes, he never goes under, and he works his tail off.
He did say in the post-game interview when he was talking to Kelsey about he needs the bigs to be higher. And that's just saying, I need to have the trust in you that if I'm doing all the hard work, as soon as I get clipped and Bryce gets some air, you need to shut that air off until I get back in front. So they'll be looking at things that they can work on. But the positive for the Wildcats out of that was that every time he made a pocket pass, whether it was to Doolittle or Pinder, they got really aggressive, put heat on the rim, missed a couple of bunnies around there as well. So as I said, I think the Wildcats, I know it sucks to lose a game 1 where you had numerous chances to kind of blow it out yourself. I think they'll be presently happy.
You've been in plenty of final series as well. I can't remember whether that second final series, whether you lost an original game on the road, but it sort of feels like a free hit when you're the visiting team going into this home game or the road game for you. Is that how you're going to view this? Perth won't be rattled by this at all.
They're not rattled. They're going to go home. They're sleeping in their own beds. You know, they're going to come back.
I hope so.
Well, here we go.
I hope so.
Their own beds. They eat their own foods. They're comfortable now. They should come out and play well. They're playing in front of 14,000. So expect Cotton to have one of those performances Chris Goulding had. And I think this series will go 3 games.
It's unique because it would be a free swing, I think, if it was a 5-game series. It being a 3-game series, now all you understand is that if you go home and lay an egg, or you have a little bit of doubt of, hey, if we lose this game, our season's done, that can really weigh on you as well. So it's going to be hard to kind of flush that. The best part is that you have now 2 days' time. You get to rewrite all that. They need some rest. A lot of tired bodies out there. You expect that from a finals-like atmosphere. Another thing we spoke about, we wanted to see the whistle go away. I think at times that whistle was swallowed. They said, you know what, let's let everyone play physical. That's what we want to see. Who lives up to that? If it's not the same whistle in Perth, who can adjust quicker is probably going to win the game.
On the Melbourne United side, the way that they came out during this game, it was, you know, they played well, but they didn't, in my opinion, blow the roof off it until Chris Goulding just grabbed this game by the proverbials and took control of it. Are you going and saying, hey, we probably maybe escaped there by a bit of individual excellence?
I think a little bit, but also you go and give a big shout out to Ian Clark. He was enormous in the first half. When they needed someone to step up, Goulding hit the first shot of the game, and then Ian Clark was unbelievable for a guy who's only been in the country for 6 days because he went back to get his jersey retired.
Hold on. What do we think of that?
Well, it was all organised, so everyone worked out, and clearly...
I don't know. Maybe I'm a cold-hearted individual,
Some
but...
of us give retired jerseys, you got to give them the time, bro.
You understand
Maybe I don't. Maybe I don't know what that
didn't-
experience is like unless they're hanging mine up in the rafters of Bond.
He didn't miss a beat. He didn't miss a beat, though, so that was the good thing for Ian Clark. But other one is Jack White. Jack White now in the second half looked much more aggressive, struggled in the first half, airballed a free throw, and looked a little rattled. He really picked it up as I called for it. That's what an X factor does. It's not going to go out there and put up massive numbers necessarily, but when you turn it on, your team will be better placed. I think Jack White did that in the second half.
I thought Perth did a good job of attacking Chris Goulding. They got him into foul trouble. They just didn't go at him at the end of the game. You go at a guy like that and get him in foul trouble. He's sitting on the bench. You take away one of your weapons. You're right. Clark came in and knocked down some threes. They got to find a way to shut one of those guys down.
If I had to come into this game and I'm Perth, if I'm a Perth fan, I'm thinking, okay, what's nightmare scenario? 1, you lose, which is basic. 2, Chris Goulding finds his stroke and has a massive game. Bye-bye, bad luck, both of them have happened. What do you do now? Do you attack him on the defensive end? You cannot let him get confidence. We know what he's like. He went on that massive roll during the season where it was 40-something, 30-something, 30-something, 40-something. Is he on the brink of that? And what do you do as Perth? Do you rough him up? What do you do?
We kind of saw it. I mean, he had 4 fouls. You talked about it. They kind of isolated him on the defensive end. That's one way you can do it. He's similar to Bryce Cotton, though, where you can only play your best defense. I think he's a tougher shot maker than Bryce Cotton. So that you have to understand that you can't drop your head. That if you're all up and in, if you're trying to get him off the three-point line, which is what we spoke about, make him do something else other than shoot threes. If he knocks one down in your face and you're all over him, you just shake his hand and say, you know what, I'm going to try and make it harder for him to catch the ball next possession. If you can limit his catches, that's probably the easiest way to do it, because the other side, similar to Bryce, if he gets the shot off, you've got to pray. the superstars are just going to come down and we're going to make shots.
Well, we could very well see this from Bryce Cotton on Saturday night. That's just how this thing works.
Absolutely, and he's at home again. He's going to be comfortable, but Shea Ely does a good job at it, on him. But again, this is the playoffs. This is when Bryce Cotton stands up. You expect for him to come out and play well, but you got to get Windler to play better. If he doesn't, then you could be in trouble.
It's interesting also that John really went very deep into his bench. I thought Aquera had some nice, meaningful minutes, but he sprinkled in Pepper for a little bit. I thought Wagstaff came in, had 2 offensive rebounds at the right time. So going that deep into your bench in certain moments can take the momentum away. But you're right. Dylan Windler's the key for their next game. If they want to win that at home, Bryce Cotton's going to be Bryce Cotton. Keanu Pinder and Doolittle looked really good. Missed a couple they normally make. It's that next player. It's that next aggressive player. Dylan Windler has to step up in game 2 if they want to win.
John really has to turn into...
John who?
Really has to turn into our defensive coach. We know he's an offensive coach. We know he can get the job done. He has to turn into a defensive coach.
And his brother, John Willie, also has to make sure that he does a good job coaching the game.
Guys
All
are
right?
funny,
So, fantastic. Hey, both of you guys had the Perth Wildcats pre-series going along. You had the Sydney Kings winning the championship. You had the Perth Wildcats winning the whole thing. But with this loss here tonight, does it change your perspective, or do you think Perth's now going to win the final 2 games and continue on?
It's going to be awfully tough. I really said that I thought they were peaking at the right time. I think they took a mini backward step in terms of some defensive breakdowns. But other than that, I still have some faith they're going to get the job done in Perth. And then down here, it's just one game. If they can get it to a game 3, one game, nothing else matters. You just roll the ball out. Whoever's better on the night's going to continue.
2 very good teams. It'll go 3, trust me. Perth will win the one in Perth. They'll come down here, throw that thing up, and let's see who wins it.
Should have been a politician. I'll tell you what my favourite thing about working with you guys is when I look at Pete and he finds something funny and his eyes are watering and I know it can make him laugh.
John Willie.
John Willie. Are we 4 years old? What's going on here? Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. A massive game going on Saturday night. Tonight, well, it was all Chris Goulding. The Wildcats, they got to lick their wounds and get back to it. Thanks for tuning in.